So our topic today, we are continuing with our OEM-specific ADAS training that we've been doing through 2025. And by the way, this is the last video of 2025. And our OEM that we're going to teach about is Subaru. Now, Subaru, especially when it comes to ADAS and especially when it comes to scan tools, it is kind of unique and on an island of its own. And we'll talk through why that is here in a minute. But this video will also be a little bit different because I have done a couple of live ADAS calibrations on this that are recorded. So we're actually, instead of going live on the tool, we're just going to go live to the shop and see the pre-recorded walkthroughs that I did on a Forester. But before we get there, we still need to talk about our different vehicles. And one of the things that is very unique about Subaru is the eyesight system. So it has a stereo camera here. You can see these two. And some models even have a center camera as well. And what this does is it allows the vehicle's camera to have depth perception, right? If you get two eyes, you have good depth perception, theoretically. So they don't use a front radar for anything. They just have the stereo camera, and that's the only thing it needs in the front. And it is able to handle the lane keep, the adaptive cruise control, any automatic emergency braking, and on newer models, they even have automatic emergency steering. So if you're braking and you might hit something, it'll steer you out of the way as best it can. So that's kind of interesting. But it handles and feeds into all those different systems. So this camera is a very, very high-tech camera, I guess you would say. And they're really one of the only ones in the industry who uses stereo camera. I think maybe Mercedes uses one on like a higher end model, or maybe BMW. But Subaru, it's across the board. Any of their ADAS, they went all in on the camera. And so they're all in on the camera. Now, interesting enough, also in order to get into redoing the camera or recalibrating the camera, you'd have to press the two buttons on the ceiling in order to get the recalibration to even pop up on the menu. This is on the factory tool. This is on Snap-on tool. I don't know about other aftermarket tools, but on the select system screen, before you select the eyesight system, you need to hit the two buttons on top, so the pre-collision brake off and the lane departure warning off switch, and that allows it to pop up on the menu. If you don't do that, it doesn't show up on the menu. And they say for preventing misoperations. So if somebody is messing around in there that shouldn't be messing around in there, to kind of keep them out of that. If they don't know, if they don't have the factory information, that just plain won't show up on the screen. So let's talk through our different vehicles, and then we will get to our recalibrations. So this is a 2019 Forester, is our first representative. And this one's fairly loaded with one stereo camera that it would have in the front. For the lane keep, adaptive cruise, emergency braking. Has a rear camera for the backup camera. Two radars in the back, so that's blind spot monitors. And then four ultrasonic sensors in the back. So that is for park assist and reverse emergency braking. They actually use the sonar for the emergency. If I'm backing into a trash can or something, it'll activate the braking that way. So front camera, it's a stereo camera, as we said. So you got the two cameras there, and it's in a little pod up in the front. Now, another thing you need to be really careful with these is if they get dust or cobwebs or anything like that, they will cause errors. So if anything gets in there, I know there's been a bulletin out before that like spiders would build spider webs and then it would work. So just be aware, because everything is hinging on that camera. You just need to make sure that the port holes are clean, right? And that would be found under the eyesight system, right? So we'd go in there. And another unique thing about Subaru is the way the simulator software works. It doesn't show you anything. So you actually have to be physically hooked up to a car to get these menus to produce. It's really weird how their computers talk to scan tools. But anyways, so that'd be in the eyesight system. You see also eyesight assist monitor. That'd be actually for the touchscreen, the video screen in the dash, right? So that's what that would be for. But eyesight would be where we would go, and then we would go into functional tests and go that way. You'll see that in the video here in a little bit. It does have I think one of the most interesting targets that they use for this. It looks like TV static, and I think they call it a random pattern is what they call it, right? And it's fairly sizable too. This is a screenshot out of the video where I hang it, but it's a decent size, probably about 3 feet wide. Rear radar, those are mounted to the bumper. inside, not the bumper itself, not the bumper fascia, but the the bumper beam in the back there. I actually had an interesting story on this that someone told me one day. They were trying to do a radar and they couldn't get the radar to reprogram. Finally, they ended up looking up underneath, and it was an aftermarket bumper, of course. And there happened to be a metal foil like sticker, shipping label or whatever. It happened to be right where the radar would have to fire through. So it's going to bounce off of that metal and go back to the radar, and it's just not going to work. You can't calibrate it that way. So they peel off the sticker and everything. It was a whole thing because they weren't the body shop that worked on it. So, but just be aware that that could be a thing. And I suppose that could apply to any vehicle, and just so happened to be a Forester that someone was talking to me about. Anyways, mounted in the back, and it is a left and right. So if you want to get on the left side, you'll go in there. You want the right side, you go in there. Like I said, simulator doesn't show much other than codes and data. Sonar for the rear. That does not have anything that we need to do. Actually, reverse automatic braking would give you codes and data for that anyways. There's really no reset, relearn, recalibration for it, but there is a reverse automatic braking module that you would go into for codes data. Rear camera mounts kind of in the deck there, and no calibrations needed for that, and there's not even a module shown for that either. 2017 Outback is going to be very similar. It's a little older, but it's going to, they've been doing this since 15, 16, 17, somewhere in the mid-teens, they started adding this system. So once again, one stereo camera, one rear camera, 2 radars in the back, and 4 ultrasonic sensors are going to be there. Front camera, another different view of the front camera. So it's got a bunch of bolts on the top, and it bolts right in, right above the mirror. And that's kind of how you would get to it. You pull down the little pod that's in there for the map lights and stuff like that, and you'll be able to get to it. Once again, that would be under the eyesight system. See how this one doesn't have the monitor in there, so it's just eyesight. Rear radar, same deal, mounts to a bracket in the back on the bumper beam corners, and that is a left and a right, independent of each other. You do have to realign them and such when you've replaced them. There is a reset recalibration that needs to be done, and we'll show that. It's going to be pretty much the same walkthrough between all of them. Then we have our sonar, clips into the bumper, right? And that is for the reverse automatic braking, so that would be get codes and data for that. And then we have the rear camera, which mounts up underneath the deck lid there, as you can see. And then there's a little connector over here on the side, and you would replace it. No calibration needed on that. 2022 Crosstrek will be the newest one out of the batch we're going to talk about, and that one is pretty much the same, except this one has an extra camera in the front for like surround view for it. So it has an extra one in the front kind of under the emblem there, and then it still has the stereo camera up in the windshield, and then 2 radars in the back, 4 ultrasonic sensors. So here's the front camera up in the windshield area. We get a different view every single time, even though they're mounted exactly the same. They're the same part. Basically, I mean, maybe some of the covers might be a little different, but the cameras themselves are going to be the same. They're going to recalibrate the same. They're going to be mounted pretty much the same way. So that's, once again, eyesight system, and you would go in there. 360 cameras, like see there's the emblem there, so it's right under the emblem. No real calibration needed for that. There's not even a module listed for that. And then rear radar, once again, mounted to the bumper, left and right, back and side radar. That's going to be for your blind spot monitor, all that. There's a recalibration for that. And then the sonar clips in the bumper, just like every other car in the world. And that one does have some codes and data. A couple of functional tests, like for the beep and things like that, but there's no recalibration for it necessary. And then the rear camera, once again, in the rear deck. So that brings us to our walkthrough videos. Like I said, I've done the front camera and I've done the rear radar. So first thing we'll do is the front camera. So we'll watch that, and then we'll come back when that's done.
ADAS, or Advanced Driver Assist Systems, becoming more and more commonplace on modern automobiles. Even simple repairs such as an alignment or a windshield replacement need calibration of these systems. Let's walk through a recalibration of the windshield camera using this John Bean TruePoint machine behind me. Okay, so here we are on the home screen of the TruePoint system. Now notice on the screen we have a workflow. So first one is shop preparation. You want to make sure you check into that. whatever needs to be done there. Vehicle preparation as well. Also need to mount the wheel targets. Now we've already done that for the essence of time here. If you need to know how to do that, there is a demo video built in which you can watch. Next thing we would do is start the ADAS process. Now you can do it multiple different ways. We can ID manually year, make, model, or there's a built-in VIN scanner so you can scan the barcode on the VIN. Or in this case, this Forester is already loaded in there in my history, so I'll just double click on that and pull that up out of my history. Okay, so this is our vehicle history screen. It shows any reports that may have been generated in past previous calibrations. In this case, I'm just going to hit use vehicle on the bottom right, and that'll load the vehicle into the system. Now what do I need? What features are installed on this vehicle? So it does have front camera and it does have side and rear radar. So I'll hit next to continue. All right, so the first thing we need to do is perform the alignment verification. Now it has us do a few things with the frame. We can see we're a little outside of that target and the beam needs to be lowered a little bit. So we'll lower the beam down so it can see all the wheel targets. There we go. Now we see all 4 green check marks on the screen. That indicates it can see all 4 targets. Now we're a little back and a little bit to the left, so we need to move this frame forward and angle it slightly. Something like that. So once we're in the green, we pause, let the frame settle down, moves to the next screen. Now it wants us to do the rollback, rolling forward and rolling backward on the vehicle, and this will help verify that alignment is correct. So I'll move this around so we can see on the other side of the vehicle. Okay, so the vehicle is already in neutral, so we have to roll forward first. So roll forward until it gets into the green. Then we need to roll it backwards. It's in the green there. There we go. And one more forward. Turns green. Then we should have green check marks on all 4 wheels. Looks good. Next step when it cycles through is we need to put it in park and put the parking brake on. Okay, so once it's been put in park and the parking brake is set, we'll just hit next and go on to the next procedure. The next procedure is going to be advanced floor level compensation, so it requires a special pointer target. So we're going to go do that counterclockwise around the car. Okay, so we'll take this pointer target and we need to make sure we line it up with the bottom of the wheel and with the existing target that's there. We should get a green check mark when it's done. Okay. Move to the left rear. Same thing. Right rear in front of the target. And right front. Okay. So I'll swing this back around and we will start our front camera adjustment. We're going to have to move the rig around. So you can see we come back up with our target and we're quite a bit to the front and quite a bit off to the side. So we will just move this backwards a bit. Okay, so once we get fairly close within the yellow circle, we can lock our wheels and then we can use this plate to make fine adjustments. Once we're in the green, it'll settle down. Next thing we need to do is adjust the beam height. Slide that up a bit. Right there. Let it settle. So once we have the frame in position, we have tells us what target we need to use. We need to mount our target to the frame. So we have an SUB FC01 is the target we're going to use. There's the snap-on part number under there. And then we need to position the target mounts. Now there's electronic linear sensors here on the sides of these frames. And all we need to do is use the screen. It'll tell us how far we need to go. Went a little too far there. There we go. Lock it into place. Go over here. Same thing. Lock that one into place. And then we'll go grab our target. Okay, looks like the frame's moved out of position. Now, one of the key points to the TruePoint system is it always is measuring and adjusting and seeing where it is in 3D space. So it looks like we need to hit the back button and just double check our adjustments on the frame. So we'll go back to that front camera again. And we'll see where the target is. Okay, that's still in the green. So that's okay. Next screen, looks like it's just when I put the target on, it moved one of the brackets out slightly. So it looks like I need to move it just a little bit, 4 millimeters in, and that's where we need it to be. So now that my target is here, we'll hit next. And now it's time to hook up the scan tool. So we need to connect the calibration tool and start the ADAS recalibration procedure. And then when we're done, we can click the box that says the procedure is complete. Okay, so I have my Apollo D9 connected to the vehicle now. Now I'd like to note that any Snap-on scan tool with the current software will be able to perform these types of calibrations on these vehicles. Just if you do need the targets, you would need the targeting system as well. I'm going to scroll down to the eyesight system, and it needs to ID the ECU. It's going to communicate. And then if we go down to functional test, that's where the calibration will be found. So on this screen, we have clear active lane keep system learning value and camera adjustment help. I don't actually have a function on this screen to be able to do an adjustment. So let's go into help and see if it will help. It says to access the camera adjustment functionality, you must exit this system and reselect the system while pressing and holding the pre-collision brake off and the lane departure warning off buttons on the camera cover or the lower left corner of the dashboard at the same time. The camera adjustment function will then appear on the functional test menu. So let's do that. We'll back out here, hit the back button one more time so we're out of the system. Hit those two buttons on the top, go back into the eyesight system, functional tests, and now there's my camera all adjustment mode replacement removal. Now before I need to perform this function, I also need to be out of the vehicle. So I just got to exit, and we'll just hang this out the window. So for camera all adjustment mode, it says replacement or removal. We'll select that. And it says when performing this procedure, the following conditions apply. Headlights need to be turned off. Vehicles parked on a level surface. All tires are inflated to the correct pressure. The vehicle does not have a load, including the driver or the passenger, so that's why we had to get out. The front wheels are set to the straight ahead position when the steering wheel is properly centered. And there's approximately 16 feet of flat level space in front of the vehicle. Click continue. All of those functions are met. Set up the targets correctly with reference to the workshop manual or use the ADAS recalibration system. So we're using an ADAS recalibration system here, the TruePoint. So we'll hit continue. And it's going to do the procedure within the ECM. Okay, there we go. It says it's complete with a 94% accuracy rate, which it counts as a pass. So camera adjustment is successful. We're going to exit the test, turn the ignition off for at least 10 seconds to save the adjustment, and complete the procedure. So this was a static recalibration using the target, and then we also need to perform a dynamic recalibration by driving the vehicle down the road as well. Once we're done with that, we can also pull up an ADAS recalibration report that'll automatically generate in the tool. We can save it. It will save to the tool. It will also save to the Snap-on Cloud for further sharing with customers, insurance companies, things like that. Okay, so now that we're done with the scan tool, we can come back over to the TruePoint, select procedure completed, and we are done. We'll hit next, and that's going to bring us to, if we want to select the next procedure, we can go and do so. Otherwise, the front camera is complete.
All right, that's the front camera. So now let's bring it over to the rear radar. So that's definitely a different functionality when you're doing that, because it's got a different type of target. So we'll walk through that.
ADAS, or Advanced Driver Assist Systems, have become very prevalent on most modern vehicles. Systems such as the blind spot monitoring system, which tells you if there's another vehicle in your blind spot, when the repairs are made, sometimes they need to be calibrated. Now, sometimes it could be driving down the road, which we call a dynamic recalibration, or you may need a targeting system in the shop called a static calibration. So let's walk through an example static calibration on the blind spot monitor on the Subaru Forester here using the John Bean TruePoint system. Okay, so here we are on the home screen of the TruePoint system. Now, notice on the screen we have a workflow. So first one is shop preparation. You want to make sure you check into that, whatever needs to be done there. Vehicle preparation as well. Also need to mount the wheel targets. Now we've already done that for the essence of time here. If you need to know how to do that, there is a demo video built in which you can watch. Next thing we would do is start the ADAS process. Now you can do it multiple different ways. We can ID manually year, make, model, or there's a built-in VIN scanner so you can scan the barcode on the VIN. Or in this case, this Forester is already loaded in there in my history, so I'll just double click on that and pull that up out of my history. Okay, so this is our vehicle history screen. It shows any reports that may have been generated in past previous calibrations. In this case, I'm just going to hit use vehicle on the bottom right, and that'll load the vehicle into the system. Now, what do I need? What features are installed on this vehicle? So it does have front camera and it does have side and rear radar. So I'll hit next to continue. All right, so the first thing we need to do is perform the alignment verification. Now it has us do a few things with the frame. We can see we're a little outside of that target and the beam needs to be lowered a little bit. So we'll lower the beam down so it can see all the wheel targets. There we go. Now we see all 4 green check marks on the screen. That indicates it can see all 4 targets. Now we're a little back and a little bit to the left, so we need to move this frame forward and angle it slightly. Something like that. So once we're in the green, we pause, let the frame settle down, moves to the next screen. Now it wants us to do the rollback, rolling forward and rolling backward on the vehicle, and this will help verify that alignment is correct. So I'll move this around so we can see on the other side of the vehicle. Okay, so the vehicle is already in neutral, so we have to roll forward first. So roll forward until it gets into the green. Then we need to roll it backwards. It's in the green there. There we go. And one more forward. Turns green. Then we should have green check marks on all 4 wheels. Looks good. Next step when it cycles through is we need to put it in park and put the parking brake on. Okay, so once it's been put in park and the parking brake is set, we'll just hit next and go on to the next procedure. The next procedure is going to be advanced floor level compensation, so it requires a special pointer target. So we're going to go do that counterclockwise around the car. Okay, so we'll take this pointer target and we need to make sure we line it up with the bottom of the wheel and with the existing target that's there. We should get a green check mark when it's done. Okay. Move to the left rear. Same thing. Right rear in front of the target. And right front. Okay. Okay, I'll spin this around and now we can start our side and radar calibration. Tells us what we need. We need a stand, a target, where the target needs to be oriented, and a target adapter, and then mount the target. Now that's already set up in the back, so we'll just hit next. And we need to position the frame in the proper area. So we'll move it up a little bit. And once we get close, we lock the wheels. And we pedal. And let that settle down a bit. And we'll hit next. And we need to raise the beam slightly. There we go. Let it settle. Next. And now we have to position our cone pointed at the rear corner of the vehicle. So I'm going to swing this around so I can see it better. We're doing the driver's side rear radar. Now, one of the other key points that it notes on the screen is you have to point it at the corner of the bumper, which is where the radar sensor is. Okay, we're in the green, so we can hit next. And then it's going to need to calibrate the height as well. Looks like I'm a little high, so I'll bring it down a smidge. About there. All right, and we are where we need to be. Hit next. And we also need to make sure the area is clear around the rear of the vehicle. And if we hit next again, we now break out the scan tool. Okay, so we have the Apollo D9 connected to the vehicle in order to do the scan tool functions. Now I do want to mention that any Snap-on scan tool, as long as it has current software, will be able to perform these functions across the board. So it doesn't really matter what Snap-on scan tool you have, Solus or a Modus or a Triton or an Apollo. Any of our scan tools will be able to do these functions. You just maybe need the targets like we set up before. So in this case, we'll scroll down and find we're doing the left side radar. So back inside radar left, says we need to determine the ECU. And then we have codes, data, and of course functional tests. So it's listed under functional tests. We have actuator tests and our radar axis adjustment. That's where we're going to perform our axis adjustment. It says it requires a radar target. Attempting this test without a correctly placed target will result in clearing the axis alignment value and setting DTCs. So we don't want to do this. We don't want to proceed any further unless we have the target set up like we do. The system will be disabled until adjustment is completed successfully. Refer to service information for correct placement of radar target before beginning this test. So we have the correct placement referring to the TruePoint system. We hit continue. It turns on the radar and it says the alignment is successful with a 0-degree angle gap. Quantity of object reflection 44 dB, which is considered good as well. We'll just hit continue and exit the test. Turn the ignition off to complete the procedure. Also generates a ADAS calibration report for us, so we can save this to the Snap-on cloud, and it will also save to the tool. This allows us to share these with customers or insurance companies for use for proving that we did the recalibration on the vehicle there. Okay, so last thing we need to do is come over to the TruePoint system and select procedure completed. Then we'll select next. Once we're done with that, we're going to come up with a done or exit, so we'll hit done. So now we're on the report screen. We have ADAS alignment recalibration report and an alignment and ADAS audit report. So that is a summarized report and a detailed report. Both reports will automatically upload to the Snap-on cloud service as long as the tool is registered with the service and the Wi-Fi is active. Now you can use that Snap-on cloud service to share these files with customers or with insurance companies as you see fit.
All right, so that's the rear radar, and that concludes our session for today. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. So next week, we are continuing with our final OEM-specific ADAS training. This one was by a request from someone on, I believe, YouTube, because we had asked for suggestions of what you wanted to learn about, and someone said, hey, I want to take this ADAS training on Mazda. So here we go. We're going to go through it next week. Same time as always, every Tuesday, 6 and 9 Eastern. Go to snapon.com/OT if you want to register and join on Zoom. Otherwise, you can join us on YouTube at 6 p.m. Eastern and Facebook at 9 p.m. Eastern. So YouTube's our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. Scan that little QR code there, and that'll bring you there and subscribe you automatically. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more information. If you want to see any of the other videos in this series, anywhere from intro to ADAS through EVAP diagnosis and everything in between, they're all available. So this is, I believe, episode 128 on this. So walk through. It's a good little walkthrough, all about half hour, 40 minutes long, depends on what they are, and gives you just kind of a background on it. And they're all free. So visit the YouTube channel and get your free training on. Next thing, do we have your email address? If we do not have your email address, then you are missing out on some important things like technical focus articles, SureTrack blogs, quick tips, all diagnostic related tips and tricks. They send them out periodically, maybe once a week. They send out my schedule periodically as well, so you kind of know what's coming up the next couple months. So if you're not receiving those emails, scan that QR code, and that'll bring you to a little form you can fill out, and then you can start getting these emails. Then we get to Q&A, and as I said, I'm traveling this week, so this is a pre-recorded session. But if you do have a question, please feel free to email. If you're on Zoom, email back, reply to the email that you got your confirmation email. That'll send it to our inbox. Otherwise, YouTube, leave a comment. Facebook, leave a comment, and I'll get to those as I can. With that, thank you very much for joining me here, and thank you very much for a wonderful 2025. We went through a lot of classes in 2025, 27 brand new classes this year. So I'd like to thank you all for watching when you do, whenever you do, doesn't matter. All the views help. Hopefully you had a wonderful 2025 as well. Hopefully we're looking forward to a different and better 2026. I know we're making some changes in the spring. We'll be changing the format a little bit, but nothing too major, nothing too drastic, just kind of changing it up a little bit as we do every once in a while. So I'd like to thank you for a wonderful 2025. Looking forward to a great 2026. With that, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a nice night and take care.